The school gymnasium was packed. Over 300 parents, teachers, and students all gathered to celebrate the achievements of the year. Phones were up, capturing every moment, the sound of applause reverberating in the air. But all that noise faded into the background as my daughter Katie stepped onto the stage. But before we continue, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell for updates. She was only 8 years old, but she had an infectious smile that could light up a room. That day, her smile was bigger than ever. Her name had just been called to receive an award, and she was walking across the stage, proud and excited. I was so proud of her. This was her moment, and she had worked so hard to get here. But just as Katie was about to take her place and accept her award, the room fell silent. I didn't know why at first. I was still clapping for her. She was so excited. And then I saw him. The principal stood up at the podium, his face stern and serious. I froze. I could feel a change in the atmosphere, the kind of shift that makes your stomach drop. He grabbed the microphone, and in a moment that felt like an eternity, he said, "Stop." Suddenly, everything went quiet. The applause died out. I could see the teacher at the front of the stage moving towards Katie, her hand reaching for my daughter. I didn't know what was happening. Why was this happening? Katie stopped in her tracks, confused. She looked to me, searching my face for reassurance, but I couldn't give it to her. What was going on? The teacher grabbed Katie by the arm, pulling her back from the stage, and my heart started racing. Katie looked at me, her eyes wide with fear. Then her lip quivered, and before I knew it, tears began to well up in her eyes. She started crying, the kind of deep, helpless crying that you can't control. And then, as if everything had gone into slow motion, the principal leaned into the microphone and said, "That child should not be here." The words hit me like a slap in the face. I couldn't breathe. My little girl was standing there, tears streaming down her face, her world unraveling in front of over 300 people. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. What was he saying? What did he mean? I had to get to her, but no one moved. Everyone was watching. Then, the principal did something that left me in complete disbelief. He looked straight at my daughter, his eyes cold, and he said, "She's a mistake." What was happening? The room went dead silent. My heart pounded in my chest, and I could feel the weight of every eye in the room on us. I couldn't look away. I stood frozen. My mind was racing, but my body couldn't move. I wanted to yell. I wanted to scream, but my voice was stuck. All I could hear were the muffled whispers rippling through the crowd as the principal's words echoed in my ears. "She's a mistake." I glanced at Katie. Her small body was trembling. The teacher still had a firm grip on her arm, pulling her away from the stage. She was crying harder now, her tiny sobs breaking through the silence that had overtaken the gym. I could feel the weight of the eyes on me. I could hear parents murmuring, the tension in the room thick enough to cut with a knife. I felt like the walls were closing in on me. This wasn't supposed to be happening. Katie had worked so hard for this moment, and now it was being ripped away from her in front of everyone. The principal, standing tall at the podium, looked as if he were completely indifferent to the scene unfolding. He wasn't flustered. His expression remained cold, calculated, like he was in control of everything. But I knew I couldn't let him get away with this. I took a step forward, but the teacher quickly blocked me. She held her hands up, signaling for me to stay back. I could see her face. It wasn't malicious, but it wasn't sympathetic either. She looked like she was just doing what she was told. Katie's eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw fear in them. It tore me apart. She looked so small, so helpless, and all I could do was watch. I felt my heart break as the principal's cold, sharp voice broke the silence again. "She doesn't belong here," he said. "She's not like the other kids. She's a mistake." The murmurs in the room grew louder. Parents exchanged confused glances, some shaking their heads in disbelief. But no one moved to stop him. Why wasn't anyone standing up for her? I couldn't understand it. Was this some kind of twisted joke? My daughter wasn't a mistake. She was kind, smart, and full of life. I stepped forward again, this time with more urgency, but the teacher's grip tightened on Katie's arm. I could see that Katie was trying to pull away, but she wasn't strong enough. She was panicking now, her small body racked with sobs. And then it hit me. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was something darker, something personal. I needed to know why. The room was still deathly silent. Katie's cries echoed through the gymnasium, the sound breaking through my thoughts. And everything inside me screamed to do something, anything to make it stop. But as I took another step forward, the teacher's grip on Katie only tightened. It was as if I was invisible. I could see the hesitation in her eyes, the conflict, but she didn't let go. I was so close now. Why isn't anyone helping? My mind raced. Parents all around me were watching, some whispering to each other, some recording the scene with their phones. No one was intervening. No one was doing anything. I finally found my voice, my heart pounding in my chest. "What are you doing to her?" I shouted, my voice cracking with emotion. "Why are you doing this? She's just a child." But the principal didn't flinch. His cold gaze never left Katie as he spoke again. "She doesn't deserve to be here. I've seen enough. This child's presence disrupts the harmony of this ceremony." The words felt like a slap in the face. I couldn't comprehend what he was saying. My daughter Katie had been nothing but a model student. She was quiet, respectful, and hardworking. What had she done to deserve this? I looked at my husband in the crowd. He was just as frozen as I was. He was shaking his head in disbelief, but no one was moving. No one was challenging the principal. The weight of the entire gymnasium seemed to press down on me as I realized. This wasn't just an accident. This wasn't a slip of the tongue. The principal's words were deliberate. They had been carefully calculated. And then it clicked. I remembered the meeting I had with the school's counselor months ago. They had been pushing for Katie to get extra support. But why? Why had they been so insistent? I was so angry now, my hands trembling with a mix of fear and fury. I turned to Katie, trying to make eye contact. "Katie, listen to me. You're not a mistake. You're not. You hear me?" Her eyes met mine, still full of fear, but there was a glimmer of recognition there. She could see the resolve in my face. "I will protect you." Just then, a voice called out from the back of the room. "Enough! This is unacceptable!" The voice was sharp, filled with authority. Everyone turned, and a figure stepped into the spotlight. It was one of the board members, the head of the school district. What was going on? The entire room seemed to hold its breath as the school board member, Mr. Thompson, walked to the front of the stage. His eyes were locked on the principal, and I could see the tension in his face. It was a look of authority, but there was also something else: disappointment. The teacher slowly released her grip on Katie's arm, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I was able to move closer to my daughter. I wrapped my arms around her, holding her tightly. She clung to me, her sobs still uncontrollable, but I could feel her slowly calming down in my embrace. Mr. Thompson stepped up to the principal, his voice calm but firm. "What in the world do you think you're doing?" he demanded, addressing the principal in a tone that made it clear this wasn't a simple disagreement. The principal opened his mouth to speak, but Mr. Thompson cut him off. "You do not speak to a child like that. You do not humiliate a student in front of their peers and their parents. That is not how we handle things here." The principal's face flushed a deep red. He opened his mouth again, but no words came out. He was being called out, and it was clear that he was losing control of the situation. For the first time, he seemed truly rattled. Mr. Thompson then turned to me, his expression softening just slightly. "I'm so sorry for what you and your daughter have been put through. This is absolutely unacceptable. You are right to be upset, and we will be addressing this immediately." I nodded, still holding Katie close. She was slowly regaining her composure, her sobs quieting as I whispered to her, "You're safe, sweetie. You're safe." Katie looked up at me, her tear-streaked face filled with confusion. But there was something else there, too. Something stronger. I could see that, despite the humiliation, despite the hurt, she was going to be okay. We would be okay. Mr. Thompson turned to the rest of the room, addressing the parents and teachers who had been silently watching the entire ordeal. "I want to apologize to everyone here. This will be handled privately, but rest assured, this behavior will not be tolerated." The crowd began to murmur, some nodding, others shaking their heads in disbelief. I could tell that there was sympathy for us now, and that made me feel a little better. As Katie and I walked off the stage, I could hear the murmurs of the crowd. Some were talking about what had just happened. Others were offering quiet words of support, but it didn't matter anymore. The principal was being held accountable for his actions, and that was all that mattered. Later that day, I received a call from the school district. They informed me that the principal would be placed on administrative leave, pending an investigation. The school board was taking my complaint seriously, and it was clear that things would never be the same for him. Katie and I would move on from this, but not without a lasting lesson. As we left the school, I looked at my daughter. She was holding my hand tightly, but she wasn't afraid anymore. She wasn't the child they had tried to break. She was stronger than that. And so was I.